Hey guys, Keaton and Alex from Hammer Athletic here. Today we're going to show you guys two assessments that you can do at home or at the gym to help you determine what your most comfortable squat position would be based on your bone structure around your hips. So if you're someone that really struggles to get into a deep squat position, give these two a go and see if you're really optimizing your squat setup. Alrighty guys, so the first assessment we're going to be doing today is called the Craig's test. So to set up for this, have your client lying down prone on the floor. What you're going to do is take one hand and we're going to palpate for the greater trochanter. Okay, so that's going to be that bony, most lateral aspect on the outside of the hip. On the same side, we're going to bring the leg up to 90 degrees. And what we're going to do is move this leg in and out, which is taking that hip through internal and external rotation. And what we're feeling for here is where that greater trochanter is most prominent, so where it's poking most out into the hand. So for Alex here, it's right about in this position. So if our hip is in external rotation with the greater trochanter most prominent, this indicates that we have femoral retroversion. If the hip was in internal rotation and we could feel the greater trochanter most prominent, this is an indication of femoral anteversion. So what does this mean? If you have a retroverted hip, more likely a slightly wider or more externally rotated stance is going to be more comfortable. If I tried to get Alex to squat in a very narrow, more neutral stance, he's going to come to his end range of motion much earlier than that deep squat position. Similarly, if you have an anteverted hip and you get that person to try and squat wider or very externally rotated, they're more likely going to come to that bone-on-bone end feel before they can get down into that deep squat position. So the second assessment we're going to be doing here today is going to be a knee to chest. So because our bodies like to travel through the path of least resistance, looking at the passive range of motion through hip flexion is going to help relate back to the first assessment we did and support the findings that we got. So if I look at Alex's here, if I take his knee through hip flexion, you can see in this narrower, more neutral stance, this is where we hit the end range of motion. If I take it back and go further out, more externally rotated, you can see how much more range he gets. So when we're relating this to a squat, if you had what we identified as anteverted hips before, you would have slightly more range in this straighter knee to chest assessment. Whereas in Alex's case, in retroverted hips, you're going to be more comfortable out wide. Just to bring this all together, guys, we're just going to give you a little demonstration here. This is someone who's identified as having retroverted hips, so their most comfortable squat position is in that slightly wider, more externally rotated position. Something to keep in mind here, guys, this is just going to be recommendations based off your bone structure. So also keep in mind that if you have any mobility deficits, this can be a massive contributing factor as to why you're not hitting depth. But give these two assessments a go and see if you're squatting with your feet in the right place.